Okay, so I found a bug in Unreal Engine 4.25.3. I don't know if it affects other versions. I have not had a chance to test it yet, but it most definitely affects 4.25. And because I did this, actually, it probably affects also 4.24 because it affected my students as well. Some of them were on a version behind. And I was teaching how to use enumerations and then teaching how to use structures. And I was putting enumerations into structures and discovered that thanks to a fantastic question from a student who asked me, what happens if you reorder the items in the enumeration? Does it break anything? I told him no, and then proceeded to demonstrate it and discovered that when an enumeration is within a structure, it does break things if you reorder things. So here's a quick demo. I've recreated just a little test project with fruit instead of what we were actually working on, which was like a room escape point-and-click adventure game. This is a super simple version. I have a blueprint called fruit. Within fruit, I have a variable that is the structure fruit. The structure fruit has two enumerations, one of them for the type of fruit, one of them for its ripeness. The type of fruit has a list of fruit here. And then the ripeness, I have unripe, ripe, and spoiled. And what happens, this one here, I have currently set to an unripe apple, and this one is set to a ripe banana. And if this guy again, left one is apple, right one is banana. If I decide now to reorder this because cherry happens to be at the top, and let's say I want to start alphabetizing this list, if I take cherry and I move it down 2 positions. So currently apple is in position 3 and banana is in position 4. If I move cherry down 2 positions, it bumps both apple and banana up. So apple is now in position 2 and banana is in position 3. And if I go back to my level, I don't even have to save. If I go back to my level, the thing on the left is now a banana, and this guy's now a cherry. So they have both bumped down in their positions because their relative positions, or I should say the values have moved down because their relative positions have moved up. So that's a huge problem. Changing the order of an enumeration should not affect the placement of an object, or the value of an object of that enumeration selected there. Elsewhere in blueprints, if I were to change the enumeration list, it will even move the node out execution pins without a problem, and that's fantastic. Normally this works great. In fact, here, let's go ahead and let's just change that value to just the enumeration directly. If we make just the enumeration, we'll use just fruit type. If I use just the enumeration and I do that here, let's default it to none. So we go here, let's set this guy to apple and this guy to banana. And if we go into our fruit type and let's move watermelon all the way up to the top. Actually, I moved cherry all the way up to the top. It doesn't really matter. One of these guys. That's the problem. I really wish, Epic, I really wish you put the arrows on the left side, because usually you're looking over here, not all the way over there. It'd be really helpful to have it on both sides. But anyway, I just reordered it now, right? I reordered it. I go here, and sure enough, they stayed apple and banana, right? You can take apple, move it way down in my list here, way down in my list, and it stays apple. And that's because I'm using the enumeration directly. I was not using the structure. Again, if I go in here and I put this back to the structure, oh, it's now defaulting, by the way, because cherry happens to be at the top. Let's move none back to the top. I always like to have that at the top. There we go. So that should now be our default value. In fact, that should have not affected this, but it's already affecting the issue that we want. That's using the top value. So if I go here and expand it, and let's set this guy to apple and set this guy to banana, and if I move those around again, because I have the structure instead of the enumeration, if I go in here and I change apple and I move apple down a few, so I moved orange into its place, and sure enough, this one is now an orange. This one did not change because banana stayed in the same place in the list. So it's definitely an ordering issue. The moment something changes its index in the list in the enumeration, it changes its value if it happens to be stored in a structure. And let me show you, I found an interesting workaround while doing this. Let's go ahead and just duplicate this fruit. Let's duplicate it, go into this duplicate, and let's add a second variable. So again, this one will still have the same problem. This fruit, I'll grab out another one of these guys. If I go here, let's make this guy a watermelon. which right now is set to the second value. If I go in here and I reorder watermelon, let's move watermelon down a bunch. In fact, I really probably want that to be at the bottom, right? If I'm doing alphabetical, watermelon's at the bottom, but whatever was in its place, I think it was cherry or banana. And sure enough, this guy, yeah, banana. This guy's now banana. So reordering did it. But here's what's interesting. If I go back here, let's put this guy to watermelon, put him to watermelon. If I go back here and I make a new variable, and if this variable happens to be the same type as the enumeration that we actually want, if it happens to be that enumeration type, again, secondary variable, if it happens to be that enumeration type, if I go here, that guy's watermelon, let's go and change the order now. I'll move rambutan into its place, move a watermelon up, it stays. It stays. Just by having a variable that happens to match the enumeration type, it doesn't break the order, so it behaves the way we expect it. Now, one of the things you'll notice, though, is that I didn't set the ripeness. Let's go ahead and set this guy to unripe. But if I change the ripeness of this, let's move unripe down, now ripe will be in its place. And sure enough, ripe is in its place. So if I were to also add, though, an enumeration, and this time for my enumeration, I do the fruit ripeness as well, compile that, go here. It says ripe. Let's put that back to unripe because really, for whatever reason, we want this to be an unripe watermelon, which sounds gross. If I go in and change my ripeness, drop that guy back down, it sticks. It stays. So having a variable that matches the enumeration type fixes the bug where the reordering the enumeration list within the enumeration, if it's within a structure, it breaks. So that seems to fix the issue. And again, for these guys, right, the ripeness, if I were to change that, having, how it doesn't matter the number of enumerations, this will work if there's only one enumeration in the structure. That enumeration, whichever one is in the structure and does not currently have a corresponding variable, will break. And that's the bug.